Hey, what's up everybody? Jake here and welcome to the hobby. I asked you guys to let me know what you're currently thinking about picking up for your own personal collection, and I will personally do the research for you and let you know what my opinion is on whether I think it's a good time to pick up some of these Pokemon cards or not. I think this will be a really interesting segment just to give you guys some insight on what other people are currently collecting and what are my thoughts on some of these cards are. It's like a secondary opinion and that's all it's really worth. Definitely pick up Pokemon cards that you enjoy and don't take someone's opinion too seriously. Now let's get started. First up, we have JB who asks, "Hey Jake, I was thinking about picking up the Gengar alt art from Fusion Strike. Do you think now would be a good time to do so?" So I did some research on the Gengar alt art, and at release it was going for about $100, and nowadays it's going for around $175 to maybe even more to $200. So it's definitely doubled in price since the release of Fusion Strike. This is pretty rare. Most Pokemon cards will decline in price after the set is released. The one rare opportunity when that doesn't occur is for some of the most popular alt art cards, where they sort of have a perfect storm, where they're an alt art card, which means they're super rare, hard to pull inside of a booster pack, and they are super in demand. So that combination of low supply, being really hard to pull inside of a booster pack, as well as being super popular, actually raises some of the prices for the most popular alt art cards. So the Gengar alt art is definitely one of those. Some of the other ones that you can think about are things like the evolutions from Evolving Skies. Those have also climbed a lot in price, and that's really due to the same circumstance where they're super hard to pull and really in demand. So if you're looking to pick up a Gengar alt art card, I would say now is actually a pretty good time because I don't see the prices on those really dipping in the near future. Justin Jenkins asks, "I'm really loving V-Star Universe. I opened up a booster box and want to buy more, but they are so pricey right now. Do you think it's a better time to buy Crown Zenith right now, or just wait to see if V-Star Universe comes down in price?" I think I have some good news for you, Justin. I think both Crown Zenith and V-Star Universe will actually drop in price just because of how modern they are. They are super present, and right now I think the Pokemon Company is going to continue to restock both V-Star Universe and Crown Zenith for the rest of the year. So the hype is going to die down for these sets. People aren't going to be cracking open and purchasing products for V-Star Universe and Crown Zenith for the months on end. I think by the end of this year, most people are going to be kind of sick of the set. It'll still be a popular set for years to come, but it's definitely going to have some breathing room by the end of this year. So if you're looking to pick up some products in 6 months, I think a lot of these products are going to be a little bit more cheaper. Crown Zenith ETB are probably going to continue to stay at MSRP. I just don't see them really dropping, but some of the less popular products, some of the more miscellaneous products from Crown Zenith, I can definitely see going for clearance prices or some really cheap affordable prices near Black Friday in 6 to 8 months. So definitely be on the lookout. Next up, we have Kurt who asks, "PSA has recently added a few Wizard of the Coast error cards to their pop reports. I like error cards, but are they really worth the really high price? I have been waiting and looking for a Missing Attack Ninetales from base set." So if you're an error card collector, that's definitely a bit more niche, but it's not as small of a group as it used to be. Back in the day, if you were an error Pokemon card collector, you were so rare. There were so few people collecting error Pokemon cards that you had to really find someone else who was into the same thing as you to even ask any value for it, because error cards are kind of niche by themselves, because what an error card is really worth is what someone is willing to pay for it. And there are some really cool errors out there. When it comes to error cards, there's really one category that really stands above all else, and that is when an error is super unique. It has to be really unique, distinct, really eye-catching, and it has to be on a rare card. If you have an error Charizard card, that's really the holy grail when it comes to error card collecting. Like a really distinct base set Charizard with a really cool error, that would be worth so much money. But it really depends on the card, really depends on the error, and it really depends on who you are looking to collect or trade with. But if you're an error card collector, there's a ton of people collecting error cards nowadays. So what is some error cards really worth? I would say do your research and definitely try to bargain hunt, because there are a lot of people out there who sell error cards without really recognizing that someone else out there might be willing to pay significantly more for them. So there's a really large range when it comes to error Pokemon card prices. The exact same error could sell for $1 and the next time it could sell for $100. So there's a lot of gap inside of it. You have to be patient and be willing to find the right person who just falls in love with your Pokemon card. So that's my take when it comes to collecting some of these error cards. If you're looking to collect some of these error cards, definitely try to find some really good deals, because they do exist. Next up, we have Maximus Prime, who asks, are any of the cards from Crown Zenith worth picking up yet, or will they continue to drop in price? They will probably continue to drop in price just because of how much stock of Crown Zenith we have coming for the next couple of weeks and months. There's just a ton of new products that are being released for Crown Zenith, and a lot of the products that have already been released, things like the ETB, things like the Pikachu special collection boxes, a lot of those products are going to be restocks. So we're getting new products as well as a second and third wave of some prior products that have already released. So just given the abundance of sealed products for Crown Zenith, the prices on a lot of these cards are going to continue to drop. And I think that's probably a good thing. If you're out there looking to collect a lot of these cards, they're going to be incredibly affordable. And if you're already having some of these cards inside of your collection, that's okay too. So if you're looking to collect some Crown Zenith Pokemon cards, I think any of the cards that are below $10 are easy pickup right now, just because they don't really have a lot more room to really decline in price, especially for some of the gallery cards who are already below $2. That's super affordable. They're not going to get much cheaper than that. They're just probably going to continue to stay around that price range, but some of the more rare cards are going to continue to drop for the next couple of months. The top rare cards are not going to see a big decline, but I do think they're going to decline for a while longer before they really start to climb. The top cards from Crown Zenith, things like the Giratina V-Star, will only really start to climb once products for Crown Zenith dries up, and that's not for quite a while. Next up, we have Abattoir, who asks, hey Jake, I'm completing a master set of Evolving Skies. Stupid, I know. I'm really only missing the alt arts. How would you recommend I go about getting them? So that is definitely a tough one, because that's a very expensive master set to collect. And if you're collecting anything, people are going to want the alt art the most. A lot of people who collect Evolving Skies pretty much only have the alt art. They have them framed, they have them displayed. I have seen so many different ways of displaying the Evolving Skies alt art, and it's really cool what people do with them, because there's all kinds of really unique frames out there right now that really makes them shine even more. So it's really cool what people are doing with them. And I would say if you're looking to get some of these alt art cards, they're definitely not cheap, and they're not going to get much cheaper. They may dip a little bit if we see another restock of Evolving Skies, but Evolving Skies is kind of set in stone. I don't see it really declining in value just because so many people enjoy the set. People would have to wake up tomorrow and absolutely dislike the set for it to drop in price, and I just don't see that happening. I don't see what could happen to make Evolving Skies really drop in price outside of an insanely large restock, and that's not happening. So how would I go about approaching getting some of these alt art cards? There's a couple of different ways to do it. You have to definitely be on the lookout on any auction websites, stuff like eBay, TCG Player. Look at all of these different marketplaces. Have these cards on lockdown. You know, look at the website once per day, track the prices, look at the listings, see when a new auction is going up, and try to snipe it. Do your best to reduce your costs as much as possible. This was how I approached Pokemon card collecting when I was on an extremely tight budget, college student budget. Is I would do my research, I would fall in love with a very specific Pokemon card, learn everything I can about that Pokemon card, know its price from a day-to-day perspective, and I would be on that auction. I would know exactly at what price point would be the best deal, and I would get them because no one else was doing that level of research. Nowadays, Pokemon card collecting is definitely a bit more competitive, but you can still find some incredible deals if you're willing to just snipe the right auction and no one else is just looking at it. Next up, we have Daniel Lopez, who asks, the alternate art Latias and Latios Tag Team GX. I've been debating getting this card for 2 years and it just keeps going up. Should I just bite the bullet and pick it up? Note, I prefer 9s and 10s inside of my collection, so if you want this card for cheap, you're gonna have to get it ungraded. You're gonna have to get a raw copy because that's gonna be way cheaper than getting it at a 9 or a 10. And if you gotta have it in a 9 or a 10, then you're gonna have to pay that premium. But I would say if you're looking to collect on a budget, you have to go raw just because the graded cards are gonna have a significant premium. Are there ungraded copies that are in a 9 and a 10? Yes, there are still ungraded copies in a 9 or 10. They're more rare, they're hard to find, but you have to put in that extra work if you're willing to save the money. That's just how it comes down to it. Now, the Latias and Latios Tag Team GX is a home run. It's a super cool card, and it took people a couple of years to even recognize it because this card's been out for like 5 years, so it's not that new of a card anymore. So if you've been trying to collect this card 2 years ago, you probably recognized it was a really cool card around the same time everyone else recognized it was a really cool card. So at this point, it's from a really, really rare set, Team Up, which is really hard to find. It's so hard to find even a sealed product of Team Up right now, since it was the most short printed of all the tag team sets. It's really hard to find even a booster box of it. And if you have a booster box of Team Up, there's no reason you would ever crack it open to look for this card, because a booster box is what? $800, $1,000 for a booster box of Team Up, and this card is half that price. So yes, even though it's a really expensive card, it's still worth it to pick it up because there's no really other way to get it. It's not feasible, it's not reasonable to crack booster packs for it. So if you want to get it and you want it to be cheap, you got to get it raw, because if you get it graded, it's going to be way more expensive. And I have a feeling that you're looking to save a lot of money because you've been waiting for it to drop and it's just not dropping just because of how popular of a card it is. It's also a really rare card because it is an alt art secret rare. So that's another reason why the price keeps climbing, because you have this, like I said, this nice niche where the supply is really low and the demand is just really high, and those cards are the ones that are going to climb the most. Next up, we have Bonds TCG, who asks, I'm looking to pick up a Crystal Lugia from Aquapolis. I'm not sure when would be a good time to pull the trigger. I also don't know if I should buy raw or graded. So this is a very interesting question. I would say this is one where picking up graded is actually okay, even if you're trying to save money, just because there's not a lot of copies of Crystal Lugia out there. There aren't. So the ones that are already graded are just going to be a better peace of mind, because if you're buying ungraded, that's when you start getting the feeling of, could this be a fake card? So buying it graded, especially for vintage cards, will save you so much time and trouble, because there are a lot of fakes when it comes to vintage Pokemon cards, and the fakes are so good nowadays. They've gone to the point where the technology is there to make them so close to real. Even the top collectors, the people that have been doing this hobby for years and years, some of them can't even tell the fakes apart anymore. So for vintage cards, especially for high-end vintage cards, it's actually completely okay to pick up graded, even if you're trying to save money, because the risk of buying it raw is so high. The risk is just so high. If you're willing to take that risk, can you still get some serious value? Yes, you can. So it just comes down to your risk tolerance. Now for this card, if you're looking to pick it up, it's actually dropped quite a bit in terms of price over the past 2 years, since the level of Pokemon hype has declined. It's climbed significantly over the past 5 to 10 years. If you look at it compared to the past 2 years, it's actually significantly more affordable now. I don't see it dropping that much more. Pokemon has kind of reached its bottom point. I don't see prices on a lot of vintage cards climbing, but I also don't see the prices on vintage cards really dropping in the near future either. I think we've just kind of reached a little bit of a plateau period. So if you're looking to pick up some cards, now might be a really good time just because it's a lot less risky. I don't see the market dropping or tanking right now, and I don't see the market really skyrocketing either. So it's a really peaceful time to just pick up some easy Pokemon cards before the next big upswing. So right now it's just a really easy time to pick up some Pokemon cards. Next up we have Casper, who asks, "Hi, I like to collect full arts with nature theme in them. Do you have any great or not too expensive full arts with nature and wildlife theme to them? Some expensive examples are Aerodactyl V, Glaceon V, and V Star." So great question. I dug around kind of seeing what you mean by nature theme. It's kind of tricky because, you know, your perspective and my perspective can be a little bit different. Some of the ones that are really cool would be Dragonite V and Celebi V. I think those have some definite nature themes inside of the cards. And if you're looking for something that's a little bit more old, just because I think everyone knows about these cards, some of the other ones that I recognize and I think are a bit more nature themed include Vileplume GX, as well as Rowlet and Alolan Exeggutor Tag Team GX. So those are some pretty cool cards with nature themes inside of them. And you can definitely dig around. If you go online and just look through pages and pages of the old alt art cards or full art cards from prior sets, you can see all kinds of really cool artworks. So there's a ton of really cool cards out there that definitely showcases some very cool sceneries. Next up we have Hans, who asks, "I wanted to get a PSA 10 first edition Shining Gyarados back in 2015, but I never pulled the trigger. Now I'm super scared to buy it because I still want it, but good God, the price has skyrocketed since then." Definitely, I completely understand where you're coming from. If you're looking at any Pokemon card from 8 years ago, it's gonna definitely climb in terms of value. That's just how the market has been compared from 2015 to 2023. It's a completely different market now. If you didn't buy the Pokemon card 8 years ago, that's just an opportunity cost, and that just means you did something else with your money, and that can be completely okay as well. I think it's reasonable to use your money however you saw fit. And if you're looking to pick up the Pokemon card nowadays, just looking at my own personal research, I see that this card is going for around $6,000. Definitely very expensive. However, it was more expensive a year and a half ago, so maybe that can help out your perspective. It was really going for maybe even double that a year and a half ago, so now it's definitely petered out quite a bit. If you're looking to pick it up, I would say now's a fine time. If you're willing to wait a couple more months, it's going to be maybe a little bit cheaper. If you can find it for the right auction, you can maybe snipe it, maybe get it for $1,000 cheaper, which is not an insignificant number, right? A $6,000 Pokemon card in the right auction or in the wrong auction can definitely go for $5,000, $4,500. Those prices can definitely happen. So if you're looking to bargain hunt, just be on the market for those auctions. This card does come up every now and again. There's a couple of copies that are sold, so definitely be on the lookout, and you may be able to find a good deal on this card. Saving $1,000 is not insignificant at all. Next up we have Ryan, who asks, "Curious about your thoughts on the Rainbow Pikachu VMAX from Vivid Voltage. Right when the set came out, this card was going for like $350, but now I see it going for $150. Is it a good time to pick it up, or will it continue to decrease, you know?" For the modern Pokemon cards, it's really hard to say because some modern Pokemon cards will become the new classic where people are going to continue to want to collect them for years to come, and some Pokemon cards are going to fall into obscurity where they were really popular in modern times, but as time goes on, people find them less and less appealing, and some people will start to forget about them. And the Rainbow Pikachu VMAX sort of fell into obscurity really because as soon as it came out, there were the release of alt art cards, and alt art cards really overshadowed a lot of the Rainbow rare Pokemon cards. So if you're looking to collect the Rainbow rares, they're definitely cheaper than they were right now, just because there's less people collecting them. So will this card decrease in the future? It's really hard to say. When you're looking out into the future, it's so hard to say, will it climb or drop? I can say that it's a super rare card. Vivid Voltage is out of print, and I don't see a lot of it going on the market. So will this card decrease in the future? It might decrease, but even if it does decrease, I don't think there's a lot of room left for it to drop. It might go for as low as $100. I don't see it going for much lower than that, just because of how rare and in demand it still is. So if you're looking to pick it up, now's actually a fine time to pick it up. If you're okay with it declining for a little bit more in terms of value in the next couple of years, if you're okay with this card staying for the same price for the foreseeable future, now's a fine time to pick it up, especially because the sooner you pick it up, the more time you have to actually enjoy the card. That's something that I definitely want to showcase as well, is that when you collect a card earlier or sooner, you get to enjoy it for longer. So there's some intrinsic value in there in having a Pokemon card inside of your collection, even if it's declining in value, because I still enjoy my Pokemon cards, regardless of what price they are from a day-to-day perspective. Next up, we have Mac, who says, I have been wondering a lot about the special tournament collection boxes like the Marnie box or the Professor Juniper or Jennifer box. They're basically elite trainer boxes, but they're going for $25 to $30. The Marnie box is definitely not going for that price. The prices definitely vary, and that really comes down to the full art Marnie promo cards inside of the box. The Professor Juniper one is also really cool. That one's significantly more affordable just because it's less popular. But you're right, they're very similar to an Elite Trainer box. You get yourself 7 booster packs inside of these instead of 8 from the Elite Trainer box. So they're very close. Would I say it's an amazing deal? It's not an amazing deal, it's an okay deal. Especially something like the Professor Juniper box. For something like the Marnie box, it's actually still a decent deal. If you look at the content with the full art trainer card, with the sleeves, with the deck box, with all the added benefits of that box, the content of the Marnie box is actually worth more than its current going price. So if you're willing to break apart the box, you get a significant amount of value inside of it. So even the Marnie Premium Tournament Collection box is still worth collecting. It's a really interesting package. I think the milk box design of it makes it an interesting collectible. It'll look good on your shelf, especially as they continue to release more of these. You can have yourself a little milk box collection, and especially some of the newer ones are pretty darn affordable. The Professor Juniper one, the Boss's Order one that's going to be released later this year, I think will be also very affordable. And they all have a full art trainer card inside of them. So if you're a full art trainer card collector, these are definitely worth picking up. All right, everybody, that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I know I didn't get to answer everyone's question. I think we had like over 200 questions submitted to us, and I was only able to do my research on a handful of them, but I'm definitely gonna go back to some of these questions that I missed and reply to them and just give you guys some basic insight. And also, if you have any additional questions, leave them down in the comment section and I'll be happy to read it over and reply to as many of you as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.